the nurse bees have to start foraging.
Okay, they feed the nurse bees.
And the foragers, by them coming back to there, the nurse bees can keep being nurse bees.
Oh.
It makes quite a difference when you set the hive where it catches all the foragers, because you're gaining about 25% of the bees just from that by itself.
And how many rounds of sales you said you could do on this builder?
If I was doing 2-day sales only, I would get about 14 rounds out of it.
Gotcha.
If I'm letting them finish the sales, I'll get about 5 rounds out of it.
And where are they going to finish?
Well, that once they finish the cells, if they're 2-day cells, then the mating nukes will do the finishing. But if I let this hive be the starter and the finisher, then they'll all be finished right here, and then the cells will be taken out and put in a virgin bank to allow the virgins to emerge. Either that or putting in mating nukes, one or the other. But we run out of mating nukes pretty quick using 2-day cells, because you gain that extra 10 days of production of queen cells, which 10 days, that's 3 rounds of cells. So if you're just making 20 cells a round, then you're gaining 60 cells over that time span, when you would have just gotten 20. You'd be getting 80 instead of 20.
Big difference.
Yeah. When you finally kind of, when a person gets over the hump and they get good at what they're doing, and I'm not saying I'm good at it, it's just an example. When they get good at what they're doing, the only way that they can get any better is to become more efficient and start managing the time like they're managing their labor.
Do 2 days instead of 5.
Right.
How do you keep track of all of it? Do you keep a book? You got to know where you've replaced queens or who's raising.
Most of my keeping track is right here, and
That's not unusual.
and most of it's either right here or in my head, one or the other. My head gets a little full, so this will let me know that I need to put a queen in here. And it's not that I would have forgotten that I had a queenless hive that I needed to put a queen in. It's that I might have wondered if that was in the canola field or was that in Priorsburg. I might not have known which one.
Do you mark where a hive has been?
No.
Do you mark your canola hives?
No. You don't have to mark canola hives. They're the ones that are completely full of honey and queenless.
Is canola honey good?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it's a really nice light colored honey, and it's a sweet, sort of generic taste to it.
Crystallizes pretty quick too, don't it?
Almost instantly. I mean,
sugar content.
yeah.
Hey, it
there's
spreads
lots.
nicely when it's crystallized.
Canola honey, if it's pure canola honey, you don't even need a starter to make creamed honey.
Yeah.
It is a starter. It'll just be buttery smooth.
Yeah.
When it crystallizes. But we don't have a market for creamed honey because we just never tried to expand into it. But we take the honey off and extract it as soon as we get the hives out of canola. Sometimes before. We'll extract some before we get it out of canola. And if a frame is not capped, we'll take the frame. If this is a frame, we'll take it, shake it like that, horizontal to the ground. Nothing comes out of it.
It's ready.
Extract it.
Yeah.
If it rains, then we'll put it back in the hive. Let them work on it some more.
Do you sell the canola honey?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We
Can I use that as a starter seed for creamed honey?
yeah, I think you could.
Yeah.
I think so. Most people don't, but from the creamed honey I've seen in grocery stores, it's not any smoother than just pure canola honey that creams. We have a farm family that lives south of here that the daughter has a creamed honey business, and we usually sell at least 75 gallons to them for her creamed honey business.
Okay. I was getting ready to get a creamer, so I was looking for a starter seed to get it started.
You can try this as a starter seed, and it will probably be as good as what you could buy.
Okay.
Probably.
Do you prefer migratory lids over the telescoping covers?
Yeah, much.
Easier to manage, or what? What's the preference?
Easier to manage, less moving parts.
Yeah.
Our migratory lids, most of them are made with a rim on them, so that you can put a patty in on top of them, without it, or a treatment on top without it affecting your lid.
Yeah.
How it sits.
What's a migratory?
You're looking at it.
Yeah.
Those are migratory lids.
A lid that just fits the top of the hive that it's stuck to the hive. It's not loose like a telescoping top. You can rattle it kind of. Migratory lids you can't.
You could use this to feed with too, as opposed to using the feeding shim.
Sure. Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Do you not have any holes in the tops of yours for bucket feeding or anything?
I have some holes in the top that have been used by other people for bucket feeding.
Okay.
Most of my equipment is secondhand, bought from other beekeepers.
Okay.
Or traded with other beekeepers. And some of them do have holes in the lid. And I like a hole in the lid.
Yeah.
But I don't use bucket feeders like that. Coons won't let you around here.
What's your feeder of choice then? Internal feeding with a frame feeder?
I feed outside the hive.
Oh, you do?
I feed 5-gallon buckets outside the hive with holes drilled around the rim.
Yep.
With 5-gallon buckets.
So you open feed?
I open feed, but it's controlled open feeding. It's not just like the California method of a kid's swimming pool with straw in it. It's a little more controlled than that. But
there's no robbing issues. You're able to set them up far enough away, or
I set them up from here to the woods, away from the hives.
Okay.
And don't really. If there's any robbing issues, it's at there. It's they're
correct.
fighting over the feed.
Okay.
There.
Yeah.
But I hadn't noticed them bringing it back to the hive and robbing one another out with that. I may just not have seen it. I don't know. But
what about the spreading of diseases at open feeding community? I mean, any issues there?
I'm sure it can.
Yeah.
But you can't control what bees are coming to it. That's the biggest issue. You don't know that there may be some bees that have some sort of disease. Bacterial diseases spread easier than viral diseases when bees are feeding.
Okay.
Just because bacteria has a little bit longer shelf life than a virus does.
So when you open feed, you feed the community.
Yeah, you're feeding whatever comes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's other bees around here that come to our open feeders, but it's okay. Ours are getting it too.
Yeah.
So that's all right. And I figure that I'm just feeding my drone pool, those other bees that are coming.
Approximately how many hives on this location, Kent?
Right now there's about, I think about 60.
Okay.
We just moved 100 and something away from here for canola.
Okay.
So.
Where's the canola fields, or where do you put those?
There's two big bee yards that we have about 4 miles that way.
Okay.
There's probably 1,200 acres of canola. We don't have nearly enough bees to cover it, but
wow,
there's plenty to make a honey crop. And then we have another bee yard about 10 miles that way. That's big, 800 acres of canola. So, it's nice to have it that close in the neighborhood. We have driven 50 and 75 miles to find canola fields. But when we take bees to the river, that'll be a 60-mile trip.
Wow.
By the time we get them where they're going.
And you leave them there how long?
We'll leave them there about 3 months, 2 2.5, 3 months.
And you said that's to pollinate cucumbers?
No, at first it's for soybeans
Ah.
to make honey off soybeans, and then after soybeans quit blooming, wild cucumbers
Oh, the wild
bloom.
cucumber.
Yeah, and if it's a good cucumber year, they'll make 60 or 70 pounds per hive off wild cucumbers. And if it's not, they'll still make 10, 15, which it don't sound like much, but multiply it times $4 a pound, it's $50 a hive. That's better than getting poked in the eye.
Oh, yeah.
Bees will work soybeans?
In places, they won't work them at all right here.
Yeah.
But on the river, they'll work them.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is it just because of the moisture content's higher or something?
Soil composition.
Soil composition?
Yeah. You can't even amend the soil here to match what they have in the gumbo ground,
Oh,
delta
no, yeah.
ground.
It's years and years at the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about measuring the topsoil in feet, and we measure it in inches.
Yeah.
Their topsoil is, you don't want to get stuck down there because there's not a bottom to it. The bottom is the Ohio River channel. So,
I'm sorry, I missed. How long are you going to leave those JZBZ cups in here before you pull them? This cell builder.
I'll check them. This is Friday. I'll check them Monday morning, and
Okay.
I'll pull the started cells, and we'll make nukes with them.
Will it be a capped queen cell at that
No,
point?
no.
Okay.
No. Now it'll be longer than you expect it. It'll
Okay.
be just overnight, they'll draw it down that much.
Wow.
And at 3 days, it'll look almost like it's ready to cap, but it's not.
Okay.
They'll
And
continue feeding it, right?
yeah, I'm feeding it too.
Yeah. And
I'll be
then they'll
feeding.
continue feeding the cell until about 8 days when they cap it?
They will feed the cell. It'll be capped late on day 5. From the day
Day
I
5.
grafted, late on day 5, it'll be capped, and they'll continue feeding it usually into day 4. About the last day before it's capped, they don't really feed it that much.
But what day are you removing them from here?
It'll be on the 3rd day.
The 3rd day.
Yeah.
And you'll move them to where?
Into a mating nuke
Okay.
that has 3 frames of bees in it, so that they can finish it. They'll act as the finisher.
Okay.
That gives you a greater chance of them accepting the queen that comes out of it, right?
Right. Yeah. It does.
So it's like a 48-hour cell.
You can put a 2 or 3 day old cell, one that's not capped, in a laying worker hive, and they'll finish it and they'll accept that queen. A laying worker hive will.
And it's safe to move it? I mean,
Yeah.
is there a time when it's not recommended to move?
Not recommended to move. Usually on the 7th and 8th day.
You can put a 48-hour cell in a laying worker hive?
Yep.
And they'll take off with it?
Yep.
I'll be darned.
Yep. They'll finish it and accept that queen.
So each one of those little cups will come off of that and go into a new.
Yeah. Yeah.
They screw off,
No, they just pop off.
pop off.
But then, would you use that for put another frame of grafted?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
I'll graft
Immediately?
again. I'll graft and put it
So
back
you
in
can do
there.
that about 3 or 4 times? for
Well,
that
if I'm
one
taking them
direction?
out every 3 days, I will. This as much larva as is in there. This is going to be good for 6 weeks.
That one, that little one right there.
Yeah. So I'll have a 6-week run of getting at least 2 grafts a week.
Will you put some pollen substitute or patty or anything in it
No, they'll be getting plenty of pollen.
because of the time of year it is?
Yeah, time of the year it is, and they had some pollen on the frames too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would if this was June, late June, early July, you better believe I'd be putting some pollen sub on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Small patties though.
You
Nothing that
you
Hive
keep
bees
this hopelessly queenless, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And do those workers, do their ovaries ever activate because
No.
there's no open brood in there? Is it the open brood that suppresses the workers' ovaries?
Well, that's a small part of it. It's mostly queen pheromone. Even if it's just virgin pheromone, it's still queen pheromone.
Okay.
Like a queen
So-
cell, but it
Yeah.
has
Even that even that queen cell is giving off queen pheromone.
Is it the queen mandibular pheromone or a different one?
Queen mandibular pheromone. The virgin pheromone is 10 oxy something else. I mean, a word that long. The mated pheromone is 9 oxy.
Okay.
It's almost the same thing.
Okay.
Just a very slight difference. But the bees recognize both of them as being queen right.
So just having those in there will suppress those laying workers
Yeah.
indefinitely. Okay.
Well, you hope.
Yeah.
You hope indefinitely.
Okay.
Eventually, the last vestige of this is that the bees are beginning to play out. And you know that they're beginning to play out, making cells, when your cells begin to get shorter and the wax begins to get darker.
Okay.
Because the wax getting darker means that the bees are not producing wax, they're robbing it from somewhere on the frames and molding it into the cell. So when the wax starts getting darker, cells start getting smaller, then with that bunch of cells, we break this down and make it into mating nukes, a couple of mating nukes, and pick another victim and go again.
So Monday, when you pull these out here, you're going to just take one cell and place it in multiple mating nukes.
One cell per nuke.
Per nuke.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you place that cell in the nuke? Because it hasn't been capped yet. They're going to be finishing it, is what you said, right?
I just push it in, push that little ring.
Orange thing into the side, or?
Well, it's not. I don't put it in an orange thing. I just you have to leave it open so that they can finish.
Correct.
The cell. I just push that little rim into the wax right in the middle of a brood pattern.
Where you would find an emergency cell.
Yeah.
But it's not hanging up and down, right? You're putting it.
It is hanging
hanging up and down. Okay.
Like you'd see a supersedure cell on a frame right in the ring.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Find some broods.
I've just seen those orange things that have like two little prongs that you can push into. Okay.
You use those with capped cells.
Oh, okay.
To introduce a capped cell into a hive, mostly in cases where you're afraid that the bees will chew the cell down.
Okay.
Because that keeps them from chewing the cell down.
Gotcha.
Protects
it.
Yeah.
Okay. But obviously, when you need them to finish it, you can't cage it. Yeah.
You can't
So
do that when you want
yeah,
to finish.
when you want to finish
block
it.
them away from getting in there.
Yeah.
What's wrong with just letting all of these girls finish all of those, leaving them in here? Okay.
Your percentages will go way down.
Of
them making
making it, or
probably 2/3 or 3/4 of those cells will be starting, maybe more.
okay.
But if you let them finish it, they will finish them. But instead of say 3/4, you'll have half of them. You'll have 3/4 of 3/4 that actually get finished.
And
they can start a lot more than they can finish.
By having them getting finished in the mating nuke, is the mating nuke have better chances of success?
Yeah.
But okay.
It does.
All right.
They'll accept that queen much easier, and that'll be their queen after they finish it.
Then if you put a capped cell in there late, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that would be like a foreigner.
Right.
That's right. The cap cell is like, whoa,
where'd this come from? Yeah.
But the cell you let them finish, it's like their baby.
They frequent it like 3,000 times a day or something. Or
yeah, and
there's a bunch of them.
As they're feeding it, they're adding their pheromone,
Got it.
and their enzymes to it. So
they're invested.
It really does become their queen at that point.
Cool.
So if you're making nukes for each of those cells, and you go to each of these hives that you got out here, and you take a couple frames out of each of them to make each nuke.
Yep. What we wind up with is a field full of nukes.
Because if you've got, say, 60 every week, and you do it 6 weeks, that's 360 nukes.
Yes, it is. Amen.
At least.
But I mean, making up for winter losses, how many hives do you actually lose in the pollination crop field?
In the pollination field, we usually lose about 50 hives. 50 out of 408.
So a third, or
well, it's we lose 10% going, 10% coming. So it's a full 20%.
And so you have a place for all these nukes that you make up.
Oh yeah, yeah. And we have so many bees. I mean, the hives in South Mississippi are just monster hives right now, because they've already been through 2 major honey flows by now. We have so many bees down there that it means nothing to go down there and pick up a truckload of brood and bring it back here and parcel it out in nuke boxes.
To help keep those from swarming?
Well, it helps keep those from swarming, plus it provides bees up here that will eventually go back down there.
Resources?
Yeah. You make a frame that will accommodate this and laying down, and more or less it's just almost like a feeder shim around the lid. You dump this thing completely full of bees.
Is that frame laying down on the bottom of the, or
it's laying down just like this. This is exactly the way a Hobson method would be made. A Hobson cell builder would be made.
Okay.
You find a frame that is all eggs, and this is a midsummer thing. So when you start having frames that are just solid eggs, find a frame that's almost all eggs, and you take a box of 22 caliber shells, and you put a shell, they fit just right to block the comb.
Okay.
And everywhere you put a cell, or everywhere you put a shell, is going to be a queen cell.
Because it's blocking that egg.
Because it's blocking it. And you're putting the shells around, and it's one shell, skip 2 cells. One shell, skip 2 cells.
Are you looking for 1 to 3 day old larva? Is that
No,
what you,
just
no?
eggs.
Just eggs. Okay.
It works best if you just do eggs.
Just do eggs. Okay.
You can do larvae, but then you're kind of running the risk of getting the wrong age larva too.
Okay.
But if it's nothing but larvae, then you do larvae. But you have all these shells sticking there, and you take powdered sugar and sprinkle over the entire thing. And once you do that, you remove all the shells, and that's been on this comb. You remove all the shells, and you put that face down, where those cells are pointed straight down.
Okay.
And this thing, remember, is packed with bees.
With bees.
And they will remove all that other stuff. And if there's no queen in there, and they're stimulated to raise a queen,
yeah,
they'll raise queens.
So
and they'll pull those cells straight down off of that. Some of the prettiest cells you ever saw, and you cut them out.
Does the powdered sugar force them to abort the rest of the eggs and cannibalize them?
It desiccates all the other eggs and all the other larvae, whatever's on there. It desiccates it, and they remove it.
They remove it.
And
does that frame sit proud like that?
Just like this.
Just like that. But how do you get your top on if that's sitting on top of the?
That's why you have to have a
you
rim
do have to
made.
have a shim. Okay.
You have to have a rim made
I got you.
that will
Okay.
accommodate that.
Okay.
Yeah, it sets just like that.
You only have 5 frames in there?
You don't put any other frames in there. You just have all of this open with just a ton of bees in there. That's why you want to use a shallow or a medium, so it don't take so many bees to fill the thing up. Because it like any other cell builder, it needs to be way overcrowded with bees. And put a feeder on it also. And they'll make a lot of cells that way. There's a fellow that he's raised queens for several years now, probably 20 years, named Charlie Cash, lives at Paducah. He sells a lot of carniolan nukes every year. And Charlie has never had good eyesight, and he couldn't, with a magnifying glass and a bright light, he can see eggs. But you can't hold the light and magnifying glass where he could graft. He can't do that. He uses the Hobson method, and he probably raises 500 or 600 queens a year doing that.
From the Hobson method.
With the Hobson method. Yeah. And lots of different ways to raise queens. They all involve making the bees think they don't have a queen.
Right.
And allowing them to create queen cells, giving them the resources to do it, and knowing what the resources look like. That's kind of an important part.